Welcome back to International Relations 101. I'm William Spaniel. Today's topic is the profile of a terrorist. In the post-9/11 world, I think a lot of us have a very specific image in our minds when we hear the word terrorist. However, terrorism extends far beyond that, and some of the preconceptions that we might have about terrorism are actually inaccurate. And that's what I want to address in this lecture. Let's start off with religion. Not all organizations that use suicide bombings are religious. Yes, some are, and those organizations will often promise rewards in the afterlife to their recruits if they're successful in committing suicide attacks. One may then wonder whether those recruits are actually being motivated by that. And that's a difficult question to answer for both governments and social scientists. By definition, if a suicide attacker is successful, there is no one there to interview after the fact. So it's very difficult to ask a specific individual whether their suicide bombing was motivated by some promise for a reward in the afterlife. Nevertheless, if we look more broadly at terrorism, we may be able to answer whether religion is necessary for a motivation for an attack. Let's look at this flag for a moment. This is the flag of the Tamil Tigers. They were a separatist group in Sri Lanka. They are the all-time leaders in suicide attacks. No organization in history has committed more suicide attacks, than the Tamil Tigers. The Tamil Tigers were a Marxist-Leninist organization. They weren't priming their followers with religious cues. And yet, nevertheless, they are the all-time leaders in suicide attacks. So it's pretty clear you don't need to be motivated by religion to want to commit a suicide attack. Something else is going on there. We're going to talk more about what that is later on in this course. Second, not all terrorists are male. The Tamil Tigers regularly used female operatives, and in one case, a female suicide bomber assassinated the Indian Prime Minister. More recently, Russia has had a problem with what's known as Black Widow terrorists. These are the wives of fallen Chechen rebels who then go out to commit attacks motivated by revenge. There are a couple of reasons why an organization would want to use both women and men to commit an attack. First, if you only use men as the vector of an attack, counter-terrorist officials can place greater focus on men and less focus on women, which then makes it easier for the women to commit an attack. Second, there are specific types of an attack that women can use that men can't. Suicide vests are rather bulky and large. You need some way to hide it. Women can hide these by faking a pregnancy, placing the explosive materials in the stomach area in a device that makes it look like that she's pregnant, and thus allowing a female suicide attacker to have less focus placed on her and have more people think that she's just pregnant and not carrying a suicide vest. Finally, terrorists usually aren't dirt poor. If you think about Afghanistan, Iraq, Palestinian areas, you may be misled into believing that that is the case. However, this is inaccurate for a couple of reasons. First, if you look at the correlation between wealth and frequency of terrorism, it's not the poorest of poor countries that are the hotbeds. Moderately poor countries have the most terrorism in them in any given year. And second, if you look into those moderately poor countries, the types of people who are committing the attacks are not the poorest of the poor within them. It's actually individuals who are relatively well off. And there are a couple of theories that explain that phenomenon. First is competency. Suppose that you're a terrorist commander, and you want to commit an attack right now. You have a pool of recruits who are all volunteering to do it. Do you choose the poor guy, or do you choose the middle class guy? Ask yourself, who is smarter? Who has better access to the location that you want to bomb? Who can blend in better to those locations? Palestinians who get chosen to commit suicide attacks are chosen precisely because they can, for the very brief amount of time, blend into the Israeli areas that they're going to bomb. And those Palestinians that are better able to blend into those areas tend to be the middle-class Palestinians who have more interactions with Israelis on a regular basis. The second explanation is signaling. Terrorists often work alone, without direct observation, especially in comparison to regular military soldiers who have direct oversight from their commanders. As we've seen previously in this course, the less oversight you have, the bigger monitoring problem you have, the larger the principal agent problem there is. So if you're an organization that faces a principal agent problem, one way you can solve the principal agent problem, or at least minimize it, is to hire the individuals who are most motivated. Those people who are not there just for the sake of being there, but are actually really committed to the cause. So imagine that you have a poor individual and a middle-class individual, both seeking to commit the attack. Which of these individuals is just there because he has nothing else to do with his life? And which of these individuals is more likely to be there because he really, truly believes in the cause? That large amount of money that the individual is foregoing, or the opportunities the middle-class individual is foregoing to commit an attack, signals to the organization that that individual is probably more likely to have the stronger ideological commitment to the organization. And so those individuals tend to be assigned those tasks. If you look into the data, indeed, richer terrorists kill more people. We can't interview terrorists after the fact, but we can figure out who those individuals are and see what sort of economic opportunities they had available to them, as well as how much money they had. And those that were better off, the people with better economic opportunities in front of them, tend to kill more people. As a final note, one policy implication from this lecture is that improving economic opportunities might not reduce terrorism. Presidents of both the United States and Russia frequently say that one solution to terrorism is to increase the opportunity costs of committing an attack, to make it so that areas where you have lots of poor individuals who want to become terrorists, make those areas richer, make those individuals better off so that they might not want to be an attacker. And while it's true that if you have more money, you may be less likely to want to join an organization, it might make those individuals who do join an organization more competent and better able to signal their commitment to those organizations. And so you may see more violence occur as a result of that. That wraps up this lecture on the profile of a terrorist. Join me next time as we learn more about terrorism. Take care.